Thank you for every single decision in the budget. Honorable Padayachi, you have been able to strike the right balance between the economic development and the social development and the leadership of our Prime Minister, Honorable Kumar Jagannath. Mr. Speaker, I am happy. I have all reasons to be happy and satisfied as the budget contains 46 measures for the people. I say it again, 46 measures. After all, why are we here if not for the people? Mr. Speaker, it is also important when we are debating the budget to talk about the context in which we have delivered budget 2022-2023. Mr. Speaker, the budget has been delivered in, I must say, uncertain and volatile time. The world is still suffering from the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic when the war in Ukraine triggered another humanitarian crisis. Who could have predicted such global crisis within 2 years? Nobody knew what would happen. We, in fact, inherited two crises. One would say a tough 2 years as we have had to act fast to protect the health of our people through vaccination. As rightly pointed out by my colleague, Honorable DPM, we did what had to be done. Of course, the war in Ukraine has brought disruption in the supply chain and pushed inflation rates at a higher levels. It is still not easy. This is the reality, Mr. Speaker. It is a fact, not fiction. I say that because I'm very disappointed to see that the opposition either demonstrate complete lack of understanding or pretend not to understand the difficult situation, always negative to suit their convenience. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I am saying we have to examine this budget 2022-2023 not in isolation. We need to examine the budget in view of what is happening around the world. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, to deliver a good budget for the well-being of the people, we need what? We need good leadership. We need a Prime Minister who is connected with the people. That Prime Minister is our Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, let us, for a moment, forget the opposition. We know they always criticize, always negative, nothing is good enough. In fact, this is no surprise, we are used to that. So let us rather focus our energy on the reaction of the people. How do they find the budget? The opposition may say whatever you want. The budget has been well received by the people from all sectors. People acknowledge that there is a lot for them in the budget. They know that they can rely on the Prime Minister to give more support to people of low income and the vulnerable population. Throughout the two crises, Mr. Speaker, our ultimate goal has been and is to release pressure on the people. People understand the difficult situation is not the doing of this government. Of course, the reaction of the population from all walks of life do not please the opposition. That is why they are unhappy, irritated. They are trying very hard to make the people believe that there is nothing for them in the budget. But, Mr. Speaker, nowadays people have easy access to information through internet. They know what is happening, not only in Mauritius, around the world. For example, they know that the increase in the price of petrol is not the doing of our Prime Minister, nor that of the Honorable Minister of Finance. You know what, Mr. Speaker? It is sometimes difficult to listen to some on that side of the House. It is n'importe quoi just to speak. No concrete, well-founded argument to refute government MPs. One might argue we live in a democracy. Of course, debates are necessary, debates are most welcome. But, Mr. Speaker, coming to Parliament to say, money illusion, disrayé, hypocrisie politique, s'acheter une virginité politique. Do you think they are serious? That's why they will always remain on that side of the House, Mr. Speaker. Whatever our government does is never good enough for the opposition. Their only agenda is to be on this side of the House by all means. Of course, we understand their aspiration. Some are very desperate for having been in the opposition for a long time. But, Mr. Speaker, to be on this front, you need what? First of all, you need what? You need to win the trust of the people. You need good leadership. You need to act on what you say. And above all, you need to care for the people. A Prime Minister who is ready and willing to step up and provide unprecedented support to his people in times of great need, like now. We are facing two major crises, humanitarian crisis, uncertainty ahead. So, Mr. Speaker, not to disappear in a moment of crisis. We know very well what happened in 1998. Giving people as much certainty and security as possible in uncertain time is very essential. That is why I say, in spite of all your demagogy, you will have to wait another 20 years to be on this side of the House, and unless you decide to join us. Now, Mr. Speaker, let us see what is in the budget. It is very important to analyze the content of the budget. As I have said in my intervention earlier, 46 measures for the people, and I'm proud to debate the budget. I can confirm, because I have had discussion with the Honorable Minister of Finance, I have had discussion with other ministers, we have had discussion with the Prime Minister. I can confirm no decision was taken lightly. So let us see together what kind of budget the government has produced. Let us rather debate facts. I love facts, not lies and fictions. I am now going to take you to something important, the substantial increase in the budget of my ministry, Mr. Speaker. Do you know my ministry tops the list of all ministries when we speak of budget increases? Never in the history of Mauritius has the Ministry of Social Security been invested with so much funding. There is a reason for that. In fact, it is our job, the job of this government, to invest in the well-being of the people. Of course, our priority always remains the people. This is a budget that reflects the strategic vision of our Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are a government who always think about people and put them in our planning. And what I'm saying can be verified. I'm stating facts. What have we done when we took office in 2014? Interesting to know. It is important to talk about that period. At that time, the budget of the Ministry of Social Security stood, listen to this, Mr. Speaker, it stood at only 13.9 billion. Better not refer to the previous years, almost insignificant increases. And what did we do when we came in December 2014? Increase in pension was in fact one of the first measures in our manifeste electoral. I don't know if I have the... Yes, here it is. So, le 12 priorité des 3 premiers mois au gouvernement. Augmenter la pension de vieillesse à 5 000 roupies. This is our first priority. So, from 2015 to 2020, the budget has climbed to 38.6 billion. 2022 to 2023, 38.6 billion to 46.4 billion, an increase of 7.8 billion. Du jamais vu, Mr. Speaker. Never in history has the budget of the Ministry of Social Security known such a substantial increase from 13.9 billion in 2014 to 46.4 billion today. I say it again, 46.4 billion. This is the largest in the decade, and I have a table here. So this is real, not fake news. Now the question is, if your government had increased pension earlier, today, the quantum, do you not think that the quantum would have been much higher? And now you have the cheek to say that what we are announcing is insufficient? Mr. Speaker, I think we need to be serious when we are in Parliament. Correct me if I am wrong, because what I am saying all along, I have evidence. Mr. Speaker, in this budget, we are once again increasing the basic pension by 1,000 rupees to 2,000 rupees for those above 65 years. My friends on this side of the House have lengthily canvassed on this good measure. So let me, however, add that between the age of 90 to 99, I don't know how many of you know that, the pension will increase from 16,710 to 18,710. And for our dear elders, age 100 plus, from 21,710 to 23,710. Mr. Speaker, let me remind the opposition that from 205 to 214, when they were in office, pension increased. Listen carefully to what I'm saying, from 2,200 to only 3,625. Sorry, 3,623. A mere increase of 1,423 over a period of 9 years. Mr. Speaker, I have the table here. So, you cannot compare this increase to that of ours. Over a period of 7 years only, we have increased pension by, can someone tell me, by 6,377. I heard one honorable member on that side saying, le ministre des Finances aurait pu faire plus. Il aurait dû faire plus. Mr. Speaker, I wonder where do they buy toupee? I'm curious to know. Tell me, maybe I can go and buy some. Mr. Speaker, we need to acknowledge the good measures. We need to acknowledge the effort of our government. So coming in Parliament, criticizing, we are doing nothing, nothing is good, this is not positive attitude. Mr. Speaker, on a serious note, what would have happened if we had not invested so much in our people since 2014? And now I heard, on the other side, they are saying, now their worry is good pour gain casse. So I leave it to the able Minister of Finance to reply. He is a brilliant gentleman. Mr. Speaker, I heard one honorable member, I think Honorable Shakeel Mohamed, a seasoned, he is not in the chamber, so I do hope he is listening from where he is. So I heard him saying, a seasoned honorable member saying, we have forgotten our elders, widows, and orphans for the years 2020 and 2021. Mr. Speaker, after so much substantial and continuous increases in pension, someone dares to say we have forgotten pensioners? You are the one who forgot our dear elders when you were in office. Let me go back to the past, Mr. Speaker. When the proposal to increase pension had been announced during the electoral campaign of 2014, what was not said by the opposition? Let me refer you to an article published by L'Express of 16 October 2014. I quote, « Il faudra trouver 4,5 milliards pour réaliser cette promesse. Celle de Sage qui a annoncé qu'il allait augmenter la pension de vieillesse. » More to come, Mr. Speaker. Et lors d'une conférence de presse hier, le Premier ministre sortant a souligné que ce n'est pas là une promesse réalisable. Sauf si l'Alliance Les Peuples augmente la taxe sur la valeur ajoutée, TVA, de 5% et taxe des produits non imposés jusqu'à présent. End quote. Mr. Speaker, once again, we have proved them wrong. Pension, of course, have increased considerably, and here I'm not talking only of the basic retirement pension. I'm talking of widows' pension, orphans' pension, invalidity pension. We have even gone so far, we have aligned all the pension, because at that time, at that particular time, before the general election of 2014, the invalidity pension was less than the basic retirement pension. So, not good enough, Mr. Speaker? Now, let me refer you to the electoral campaign of 2019. At that time, we announced that pension would be increased to 9,000 rupees. Surprisingly, l'Alliance nationale announced pension would be increased to 10,000 rupees. 1,000 rupees more than us. Fair enough. Funnily enough, in 2019, No mention of an increase in VAT to sustain the increase in pension. So, Mr. Speaker, do you find any, how can I put it, do you find any consistency in their reasoning? That is why the people did not believe in their promise of 10,000 rupees. They chose again to put their trust in us. They were confident that they would be getting the 9,000 rupees as stated because our Prime Minister is a man of his word, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the opposition talk about oubli. Ensemble, tout pose vide. Ensemble, tout vente vide. So, you want to talk about oubli? Let us talk about oubli. Oubli was when children with disability were not receiving their basic invalidity pension. This is oubli, an injustice which has lasted for almost 40 years. Mr. Speaker, I remember having read an article in a daily newspaper where a mother was relating how difficult it was for her to make both ends meet. You know why? Because she relied on the salary of her husband only, which was the only breadwinner of the family. So she could not work as she had to take care of a child aged 5 years, and the child was severely handicapped. The child needed the constant care and attention of her mother. So, on this side of the house, on venait d'être élu. I was at that time Minister of Social Security. So I found that strange. Why is it that the child who is suffering from a disability was not deriving an invalidity pension? But, Mr. Speaker, it did not take me long to realize that there was, in fact, a barrier, an age criteria which prevented children less than 15 years to benefit from an invalidity pension. So, you know, then at that time, I had discussion with the Prime Minister. I think, if my memory serves me right, he was Minister of Finance. I don't know, but I do know that we had discussion, and immediately decision was taken to remove the barrier. Mr. Speaker, I tell this story for one reason: to illustrate our consideration for the people and willingness to bring meaningful changes. And today they are saying that we have robbed our pensioners, widows, and orphans. Mr. Speaker, how irresponsible. Mr. Speaker, on a very important issue, allow me to rebut Honorable Mohammed on the issue of Muslim widows. Unfortunately, he is not in the chamber. So, again, I do hope that he's listening. I have listened. I was in the chamber at that time when he was intervening, so I have listened very carefully to him. Honorable member has mixed issues, I must say. His argument is wrong. I will tell you why. But before I debate on this aspect, I want to say nothing personal, no hard feelings. I'm just stating facts because it is important for us to set the record straight. Honorable member, let me quote part of what Honorable member said. In 1991, the MMM was in government. If memory serves me correctly, and things were brought right, the MMM could make the MSM see straight, end quote. Mr. Speaker, I was puzzled by what he said. He has been very selective in his argument indeed. So the questions are, who brought the amendment to the Civil Status Act in 1990? First question. The answer is Sir Anirudh Jagannath. Who set up a committee chaired by late Justice Ahmed to look into the whole issue at that material time? Again, late Sir Anirudh Jagannath. Third question. Who conducted meetings with various religious bodies? The answer is Sir Anirudh Jagannath. Who set up the Muslim Family Council? Again, Sir Anirudh Jagannath. And I can go further, Mr. Speaker. Let me quote late Sir Anirudh Jagannath when he intervened on the Civil Status Act, Amendment number 2 Bill 1990. What did he say? I quote, Mr. Speaker, the document is with me, evidence. Mr. Speaker, sir, I trust that these new provisions will satisfy the requirements of the Muslim community, end quote. Of course, he was debating, so I will not go through the whole debate, so I'm quoting part of it, what I think important. This sentence, Mr. Speaker, in fact conveys the feeling of late Sir Anirudh Jagannath for the Muslim community. He wanted to assure the Muslim community that the MSM was here for the whole people. So, the other question, Mr. Speaker, why in 2014, when your government, I'm referring to Honorable Shakeel Mohamed, at the eve of the general election of 2014, introduced the Surviving Partner Allowance to cover only the period of 1987 to 1990. Honorable member remained silent. Why? We need to know. As far as I remember, at that particular time, Honorable Member Shakeel Mohamed was Minister of Labour and Mrs. Bapu was Minister of Social Security. We need to know why at that particular time he was in government, he remained silent and only period 1987 to 1990 was covered. Why did the then government brush aside widows who do not fall within this period? Why? Very strange indeed, Mr. Speaker. You have been in government from 2005 to 2014. And long period of 10 years, you have covered only a certain period. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you did raise the issue with the then Prime Minister, but it fell on, how you say, on deaf ears. In fact, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Shakeel Mohamed himself, he admitted in Parliament, sitting of 30th October 2018, I quote, listen to this, when I was part of government, we had a ministerial committee, nothing happened, end quote. Yes. So, if you truly had the will, you should have made it happen as you have served the country for almost 10 years. So, therefore, Mr. Speaker, be humble enough to give credit where it is due. I would have expected honorable member to express gratitude to the government of the day instead of blaming the MSM party. Of course, we have not yet worked on the modalities. This is something else. But, Mr. Speaker, sorry?
No, don't, please. Stop interrupting the please. If you have a point of order.
Any point of order?
If you don't have any point of order, remain quiet. You have a point of
Speaker,
order.
with all due respect to you, the Honourable Lady,
No, you're debating with no, it's not good. It's not a good precedent. You're an experience. It's not a good precedent. One day you will be in power. One day you will be in power. Don't defeat the standing orders, okay? This is the question.
No, Mr. Speaker, I don't know how this is causing inconvenience to you people because, as I have said, since I started my intervention, I am relating to facts, not lies. You can check what I'm saying. So you can correct me if I am wrong.
Continue.
So you turn a blind eye on the main issue, so you have corrected only the period of 1987 to 1990 by introducing the Surviving Partners Allowance, and you have brushed away the other period. So we are concerned about the tardy registration of Muslim religious marriage. And, Mr. Speaker, the bottom line is that the proposal in the budget will surely allow Muslim widows to register tardily their religious marriage. And, one should appreciate our effort. It took time and effort to reach this point. No government before has dared to touch upon this issue. So I can tell you it has not been an easy task. Many issues were involved. My ministry has had many consultations with the Prime Minister's Office, the Ministry of Finance, the Civil Status Office, the State Law Office, the Muslim Family Council, before finalizing on what is in the budget. Mr. Speaker, I will say this measure would not have been in the budget if the Prime Minister had not supported me. All credit goes to our Prime Minister. On this side of the House, we appreciate the willingness of our Prime Minister to bring meaningful change. And Mr. Speaker, this is very important when you put people at the center. You have to care for them. You have to address all the injustices. You have to see that they are getting all the support. You can't leave them behind. Mr. Speaker, let me now turn to a very special measure announced in the budget 2022-2023, a measure very close to my heart, same as, I think, Honorable Béranger, the disability allowance of 2,500 for persons suffering from a disability between 40% to 59%. Yes, yesterday I have listened to Honorable Béranger. I'm glad that in his intervention, Honorable Béranger acknowledged that this is, in fact, a good measure. Well, he also said that the amount is of 2,500 is insufficient. But let me reassure him that, we are doing what we can in this difficult time to help the vulnerable people. And I must also say that, the 2,500 is over and above the social aid. So if someone will be getting the 2,500 rupees, this does not mean that there will be a cut in the social aid. So, Mr. Speaker, having said that, I would be the first to say that we have to do more for the vulnerable people, and I mean it. Now let me respond to Honorable Juman. Honorable Member, you intervened yesterday and said that you cannot understand how come the pension of two, I don't know if you say one or two, have been discontinued. I was not in the chamber, I was listening in office. So I don't know if you say one or two, but you mentioned two persons, I think. So, yes, of course, we also on this side of the House, we sympathize with people whose pension are disallowed. But I did explain in the House earlier that basic invalidity pension is awarded following a medical assessment made not by me, by the medical board. And let me reassure you, if the pension of those two people have been disallowed, there are avenues. They can make an appeal. And if the appeal, we have gone even further. If the appeal is not allowed, the person can make a fresh application after a delay of 6 months. So this is the inconvenience. If the appeal has not been allowed, he will have to wait for a period of 6 months before making a fresh application. So, but it is worth mentioning that the statistics show that the number of appeals allowed are much less than the number of appeals disallowed. So what does it mean? This shows that the system is fair and just. Otherwise, it should have been the contrary. So I think the chamber, the House need to understand. I cannot, as a minister, substitute myself to a doctor. The more so, we have a specialist and a representative of the SLO on the tribunal. Therefore, I stand guided by their recommendation. It will be very improper if I start questioning the findings. And here we are talking of clinical assessment. I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor. So we should trust the professional findings of the medical board and the medical tribunal. So I will invite you to let me have the details of those two persons. I will look into it, of course, because as I have said, we are not here to cut the pensions of people. There might have been a reason, I don't know, maybe his health has improved. So I will check and then inform you accordingly. Are you satisfied? Okay. So, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, let me move on to other measures. So, I changed the policy with respect to assistive devices. You know, we were providing assistive devices in kind. I will not go into the details because, you know, we were having difficulty on delivery. So we now allocate a cash grant instead of assistive devices in kind. We have now revised the quantum. So my friends on this side of the House, they have canvassed lengthily on that, especially Honorable Babli. So a cash grant of 5,000 rupees will be given for spectacles, 10,000 rupees for wheelchairs and hearing aids. Of course, I do hope, because I am honored to be at the head of this ministry, and I do hope in the years to come, if the situation improves, we are in a position to increase those quantum, Mr. Speaker. So, another measure is the substantial increase in social aid by 20%. For the first time, social aid is being increased by 20%. So, these are evidence if the budget is not for the people, then what it is for. Mr. Speaker, allow me to touch upon some measures announced for the social integration division of my ministry. You will recall in 2016, we developed the Marshall Plan. Families living below the poverty threshold are registered. As at date, it is good to note, we have 5,780 eligible households under the SRM. And the House will also remember that in 2016, the poverty threshold was set at 2,720 for an adult and 1,360 for a child, capped at a maximum of 9,520. What did we do in 2021 in a spirit to alleviate poverty? The poverty threshold has been increased to 3,000 for an adult and 1,500 for a child, capped at a maximum of 10,500. Here again, we hope that in the years to come, we will improve this measure. So, Mr. Speaker, by increasing this quantum, we have given a chance to more people to get on the social register of Mauritius. Now they can, when someone is registered on the social register of Mauritius, he can benefit from various support, financial, educational, training, and housing. So the minimum subsistence allowance allocated to a household stands at 500. This amount also has been revised. It was not revised since 2016. So now it is increased from 500 rupees to 1,000 rupees. Another interesting measure for the people, Mr. Speaker, has been the announce to allow persons with disabilities to enter the social register of Mauritius. The basic invalidity pension will no longer be taken into account while calculating income. So this is a very important measure. Now, more people at the bottom of the ladder, if they need help, I'm sure they will be captured on the SRM. Mr. Speaker, since 2014, this government has taken a series of measures to promote education. Our Prime Minister has always says money should not be a barrier to education. Of course, our duty as a thoughtful government is to facilitate education. So in this spirit, we are waiving the administration fee for full-time courses at the MITD and other public tertiary education institutions for SRM children. So briefly, Mr. Speaker, we have the budget provides also the National Social Inclusion Foundation with interesting earmark, 35 million to provide support to families on the National Database for Vulnerable Groups Families, 200 million for programs to support children in residential care institutions, 15 million on a reintegration program of patients from Brown Secker Hospital, and 10 million for a program on homelessness. Mr. Speaker, before summing up, allow me to say a few words about my constituency. Constituency number 19, a beautiful constituency, but which has been invisible completely invisible before the general election of 2014. Yes, no project at all. Fortunately, with this government, no constituency is left behind, as was done by the previous government. For our government, no constituency is bigger or smaller. This is why, for the last 7 years, constituency number 19 has constantly been experiencing changes in a positive way. Renovation, let me cite a few: renovation of plaza, setting up of 2 community centers. Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, when we took office in 2014, there was no community center compared to other constituencies. We are constructing medi-clinic for the people, for our mandates, almost done. Construction of a multipurpose complex at Camp-le-Vieux, an elderly daycare center at Rochepoune already completed. The list is long, so if one wants information, so they can go through for what I have said earlier in Parliament or in the budget. So, Mr. Speaker, let me reassure Honorable Devan Nagalingam. We are, Honorable Kolenda Velu and myself, we are in constant discussion with the people of constituency number 19. We are on the field, no worries. So we will continue to do what needs to be done for our people. Mr. Speaker, well, I want also to mention that the budget to the address of Honorable Devan Nagalingam, the budget 2022-2023 clearly made mention of an amount of 1 billion for the improvement of the water supply, where Rosil is, maybe you have checked, is mentioned as a priority. So I do hope that the necessary will be done. I admit that there has been delays in the water supply, but this is not our doing, of course. We have had problems with the previous contractors, but the needful is being done for change. So in closing, let me say this, Mr. Speaker. Very important. In some 2 years, government will be judged by the people. Very important, government will be judged by the people. On this side of the House, on this front, we are happy to be judged. We are happy, Mr. Speaker, because our actions speak. On this side, we are not willing to sit back and see what happens. We want to bring meaningful change in the life of all citizens across the island. We love our people, and that is why we are investing so much in the people. As I have said, 46 measures in the budget for the people. The funding has increased considerably. How much I said? 48.4 billion. So, Mr. Speaker, we must pursue, and that is what we have set out to do in the budget 2022-2023. Of course, any member of the House will agree with me that the remaining part is in the implementation. We have to make sure that we deliver on what we have mentioned in the budget. This is very important. Parce que à quoi ça sert de venir avec un bon budget, mais par la suite, rien en ce qu'il s'agit de l'implémentation. L'implémentation reste une partie importante de nos actions, so we'll have to make sure that our officers and ourselves deliver. This is very important, under the guidance of our Prime Minister. And I will end on this, Mr. Speaker. You can tell about a government by looking at the kind of budget it delivers. The budget 2022-2023 did send the message that we are for the people and with the people. Thank you, one and all.
Honourable members, I will suspend the sitting for 1 hour.